All right, when we're looking at transformations, we want to see what each number does. So if there's a negative out in the front, that tells us there's a reflection that's happening. If there's a number out in the front of the x squared, that's telling us it's either a vertical stretch or a vertical shrink. We ignore the negative sign and we just look at the number. That number is 2. If it's a vertical stretch, it's anything that's greater than 1. If it's a vertical compression or shrink, then that means that our A value is between 0 and 1. Since our A value is 2, it's a vertical stretch. There is nothing inside parentheses, meaning that this means the same thing as if I said plus 0 inside the parentheses. So that means it does not go left or right at all. Okay, it can only move left or right if there's something inside the parentheses. This minus 4 on the outside tells us it's moving down 4. For number 2, we have a number out in front. That number is 1/2. Since that number falls between 0 and 1, that is a vertical compression or shrink. The plus 3, it's on the inside, so that's telling me it's either right or left. When it's a plus sign, we go left. So those are our 2 transformations. Number 3, state the axis to symmetry, vertex, domain, and range. So axis to symmetry is our imaginary line that cuts the graph in half. So it's going like this. Okay. It passes through the x value of 1. So our axis to symmetry is x equals 1. Our vertex is the turning point of the graph. This is our vertex. The coordinates of that point are 1, 2. Max or min? Max or min is asking you, is this point the highest point? That would make it a maximum. Or is this point the lowest point, which would make it a minimum on the graph? This is the lowest point on the graph, so this is a minimum. Domain is for x values. It's asking us what x values would be included on this graph. This graph goes forever this way, which is going out to the left, and it goes forever this way, which is going out to the right. So it's all real numbers because it's going left and right forever. The range is for y values. On this graph, there are no y values below my vertex. There's no points down here. This graph is only going up from here. So for range, our y values are everything greater than or equal to 2 because it never goes lower than 2. Number 4. Create the graph. Plot the vertex and at least 2 other points. So we're going to get our vertex first. Our vertex comes from the shifting that's happening. On the inside, this tells us if it goes left or right. Since it's a minus sign, it's telling us it goes to the right. It goes right 2. So it's a positive 2 because I'm going right 2. And this tells us it's going up 1. So right 2 up 1 makes this coordinate 2, 1. That's the first thing that goes on our graph. To get these other 2 points, we have to plug something in for x. The easiest number to plug into any equation is to plug in a 0. Right? So I replace the x with a 0, and then I follow order of operations. Order of operations says do the parentheses first. Parentheses gives me -2. Then I take care of exponents. Negative 2 to the second power is positive 4, and then I can add. I plugged in 0, I got 5 for my answer. So this is the point that goes on my graph. We talked about how there's an imaginary line that cuts our graph in half. That's the axis of symmetry. It goes through the vertex and cuts it in half. Everything is a reflection on the left side to the right side. So it's going to look exactly the same on the left side as it does on the right side. Because this point is 2 spaces over, if it's exactly the same on the right, then I put a point 2 spaces over. That helps me make my graph. Up and up. That's all I need to graph. Okay. If I had picked a different number besides 0, you could have done that. Let's say I picked 1. If I picked 1, I plug 1 in for x, and I would get negative 1 in the parentheses. Square it gets me positive 1, and then add it, I get 2. I plugged in 1, I got 2. 1, 2 is on my graph, and then 1 space over, 1 space over. Okay, so I didn't have to plug in 0. I could have plugged in 1. It's up to you. You just pick an easy number to plug in. If I had to, this question does not ask me, but if I had to state the range for this graph, this is the bottom of my graph. So all the y values are going to be bigger than 1. So y is greater than or equal to 1. Number 5. Same thing, directions, create the graph, plot the vertex and 2 other points. So there's nothing in parentheses, so I'm not going right or left at all. So it's a 0 for my x. Plus 4 means go up 4. So start at the origin, don't go left or right, and just go up 4. There's my vertex. Now I pick a number to plug in. I can't plug in 0 this time because 0, when I plug 0 in, I already know my answer is going to be 4. It would be a waste of time to plug 0 in. So I'm going to plug in 1. So negative 2 times 1, and I just picked 1 because 1's an easy number to use. Order of operations says I do my exponents. So 1 squared is 1. This means multiply, even though there's no symbol there. And then I add. I plugged in 1, I got 2 for my answer. 1, 2. My imaginary line, the axis of symmetry, cuts my graph in half. It goes through the vertex. Since this is 1 space away, then my other point is going to be 1 space away. And I plot that point, and I make my curve. Okay. If I had to do range, it doesn't ask me to, but if I had to, this is a maximum. Nothing is going higher than this. So all of my y values are going to be lower than this. So y is less than or equal to 4. Number 6, transformations from the parent function are given below. Write an equation to represent the function. So we're going to take it piece by piece. Reflected over the x-axis. When it says reflected, it means there's a negative out in front. Vertically stretched by 2 tells me my a is 2. A goes in the front of the parentheses. This 2 is just because it's quadratic. It's because it's the function I'm dealing with. It's a squared function. Without that 2, it wouldn't be a parabola. Okay, translated 3 units up. The up and down goes on the outside, and since it says up, it's a plus 3. 5 units left. Left and right goes on the inside, and it's a plus. So x plus 5. Okay, what you have to remember is the format Okay, this number on the inside, if it says plus a number, it's left. If it says minus a number, it's right. If it says plus a number on the outside, it's up. If it says minus a number on the outside, it's down. Those are the rules you have to remember.